Good morning, everyone. Welcome to OSA Friday for Females. I have the lovely Jasmine Bull from Unbelievable Events with us this morning. Thank you for joining us.
Yay, absolutely. This is exciting. It's a good Friday
Yeah,
morning.
yeah. What a great way to start off Friday, right? Having fun and everything. By the way, just FYI, I love the little wooden background, like the cabin-like feel to you
Very
wherever you
warm.
are. Yeah, it's like you're in the mountains. It's really cool.
I get them
Um,
all the time.
All right, well, we're gonna just jump right into it. Just for those of you who know, if you're watching this morning, thank you. You can put in your comments, but we'll answer them at the end. Okay. Um, so, Jasmine, tell us your story. How did you get into event planning, and how did that lead you to Unbelievable Events?
Ooh, I love this question. I get asked a lot. I've actually been coordinating events since I was like 18. So when I started my business or my event career, um, I remember working for other companies, like all the other companies I used to work for and things like that. I would always volunteer to do like the holiday events, the co-working events, like all of those things and those kind of programs. And I remember distinctly working for a company and I helped start like the employee acknowledgement program, which is like co-working parties and making sure the employees feel great about themselves and they're excited every day. So having that, like that kind of helped propel that. But really it started, honestly, little known fact, I planned my own 10th birthday party. So that's kind of where it all like came up for me. So the love for it is there, and the passion for it. And I realized that that's kind of where my journey started. Um, and to speaking of journeys in this particular where we are right now in this world, I realized when I started my business, I wanted to talk about virtual events. I wanted to get into them. But at the time, it wasn't that big of a deal. And I was like, oh, it's on my priority list. I'll get to it eventually. And then, boom, this happened. So I was like, oh, maybe I should pull that thing I wanted to dabble into up on the
Yeah.
top, because I wanted to be able to research and give and be able to be a light for my clients, right? And be an inspiration for my clients. And in doing that, it propelled me to start hosting my own events, which helped them see that they don't have to cancel their event. We can be an innovative and we can change the mindset of everybody. And I love one of my quote that I use often, and it's my quote that my motto that I go by every single day. And dreams can be a reality when you put faith to action to achieve them. And
Mhm.
that's how I pride myself with my events, is that I can take your dreams and make them reality, and make your vision come to life. So yes.
Wow, that's pretty cool. I think that's an amazing thing, like first of all, I like the fact that you took an opportunity, right? Like a lot of people are like, "Oh my goodness, COVID, like what do we do?" And here you are, you just like adapt, right? And you allowed the open door, well, so to speak, right? Like you
Mhm.
looked for the opportunity in the moment. And I like the fact that you planned your birthday party. That's awesome.
Pleasure.
But, I mean, when I talk to a lot of people, it's like they kind of know what they want to do at a very young age. Like I knew somebody who wanted to be a doctor at a very young age, and now she's a doctor, and she even knew it to the T. She was like, I want to be working with kids. So she's a pediatrician. So, it's just amazing because yeah, that personality shines out, like that inner child shines out, and if you can just find it and you do it, then you're going to end up doing what you love and it's going to really speak to you, and then people are going to see that around you. So
Exactly. I'm big. I'm a huge kid, so like that's definitely one of my biggest things. Like I always say that I'm like I'm the biggest kid in the room.
yeah,
I
I
I
think
am
I think
amused
we both
at
are.
I am amused at the smallest of things. Like this morning, I was taking a shower. Just a side note, I was taking a shower, and I squirted the shower gel, and there's bubbles that popped out of the shower gel, and I'm
And
like,
you got excited.
oh, and I am amused at the
that's,
smallest
that's
of things.
that's why Jasmine and I get along. It's like the little things. It's like, oh, I can push this button. Oh, yay.
Yay, it just does something. I can laugh about it.
Yeah, awesome. All right, what is the hardest thing above event planning that most people, yeah, what is the hardest thing for event planning that most people don't know of? So, like when people are event planning, what's something like behind the scenes that people don't know of that's pretty difficult?
Um, I have a few things, but definitely it can be like, this is the thing. I want to make sure people, event planning can be easy. It can be as easy as 1, 2, 3. But the secret is you have to have a plan in place. Like you have to have a plan and a process. And then it can be as easy as ABC. See what I did there? 1, 2, 3, ABC. And but you have to, until you understand that, it's not going to be that easy. It's kind of like, yes, you have a date. Okay, so now you have a date. Then you have to go, well, how many guests are you expecting? Okay, so now you know how many guests you're expecting. So where are you going to have it? Well, now you have a location, but then you forgot your budget. So there's, as long as you have a plan and a plan in place, then it's going to work out. And I took that to heart, and hearing some of these some of my clients and people on my followers and things like that they were having issues with this. So I created a checklist to make your life easier, and you can find it on my website. Like, start there. If you start there, that'll help you, guide you through a process, and it gets you, easier. And then, the other thing I like to say too is, like, people don't realize that you're dealing with multiple personalities when you're doing an event. So you're dealing with, different vendors, but each vendor has their own unique personality. And so blending those personalities together to make a cohesive event come together where people aren't yelling at each other and screaming at each other. And then, being a problem solver in those moments too, like you have to be able to problem solve on the fly.
Mm-hmm.
If a wall goes down in room B, but your TV's not turning on in room A, what are you going to what's your priority, and what problem are you going to solve right now? So that's like, you have to be able to quickly do that. But honestly, I truly believe that, like, the planning process can be so easy, and it's just so much fun. I love it. I mean, I want people to love it, which is why I do what I do, and I make people excited about it. But some people are like, no.
Yeah, well, and I think you highlighted an important part. Like you have to know what you're doing, and I don't think that's just with event planning. I think that's just in general. Like whether it's in college or life, or if you have your own business, or if you're working for somebody. Either way, you have to have some sort of regiment and discipline of how to get things done, and then you just expound on that for event planning. So. You just got to make it a little bigger. All right, so now you've told me what kind of people feel are the hardest things, but what do you think is like the easiest part?
Coordinating? No, I'm just kidding. No, but seriously. Okay, so like, I would love to say the build up. Like, for me, it's the build up for the event. Like, I have so much fun with my clients in the planning process that by the time the event actually happens, it's almost like a bittersweet moment, right? Yes, I'm glad the event's over, and we still have things to do after the event, but I'm glad the event's over. But then it's also like, now I can't plan anymore. Like, there's nothing to plan, which is interesting. And either you jump into the next thing. So I'm always eager to, like, jump into the next planning process. And I have a couple clients that are like, I do their events every year. So it's easy for me to go from one event to the next event. But obviously, as an event planner, I always tell event planners, I was told in the beginning when I started my business that you have to take a break in between. There has to be some kind of break in between your events. Yes, you can do them every weekend, but at least lock in time where you cannot be bothered with an event, thinking about an event, planning an event, so your mind can rest and you can reset. And so, like, that's something. But yeah, to me, planning is my favorite and easiest part.
Well, that's why you do it. Like, that's why you've got your business, because it's easy for you and you love it. And why do something you don't love, especially if it's your own business? You know what I mean? Like, if you're gonna do your own business, you better do what you enjoy. Otherwise, you're gonna be miserable with it. I mean, don't do something that you're like, oh, I don't like it.
Exactly. And it's like setting a budget. Like, the other thing too that I often say to people, once you set a budget too, like, everything else kind of falls into place a little bit. Like, you set a budget and you have a date. Everything else is like putting pieces in a puzzle. So that's, I mean,
Yeah, you kind of have to have the end vision and know how to get to that end vision, and then it's like writing a book, like know what the purpose of the book is, and then
Yeah,
like put the little parts together to make sure that that whole vision comes together.
exactly. Yes, yes, yes. You get me,
Yeah.
Terica. You get me.
Um, my next how are you constantly energized? I know where mine comes from, but yours all, everyone has their own like energizer bunny. So where is yours?
Uh, prayer, prayer, and lots of coffee, and people. Prayer, lots of coffee and people. But honestly, prayer is the number one thing. It brings me so much peace. It brings me true excitement, true joy. Like I am so encouraged when I pray. And to me, it helps me love people more and like get excited for what I do. And so that's really honestly, that's where my energy comes from. And clearly coffee. So I'm ready.
So it's already
All ready to go. I already had
everyone
one
says
cup
like
this morning.
coffee. I'm like, how? Like, because for me, it's not coffee. Like, I don't drink coffee. The one time I touched coffee, I was like, no, like, I don't get it.
Never again.
Yeah, mine is tea, but it doesn't get me energized. I have other ways for that, but so what do you do when you're relaxing or taking time for yourself, since you're kind of constantly like helping others with their event planning or like go, 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 So what do you do to relax, and when do you do it?
Or I'm on 100 all the time. Yeah, no, I'm
Yeah,
kidding.
you are on
No.
100 all the time.
Well, I love people. It's funny. I love people. And that is kind of a secret of mine, in the sense of how I relax
Oh,
a little bit. Like,
it's no longer a secret, Jasmine. It's all
I know
out there now.
it's out. It's out, everybody. It's out. No. Honestly, so I was in theater. Most people don't know this. I don't know if you knew this, but I was in theater in high school and college. And I loved being on stage. I fed off the energy of people. And now it's like a hidden gem of my business is that I do behind the camera work now. So like now I'm behind the camera and I help direct and get it to write the vision that you want it to be. But honestly, I can say with that in mind, I relax with like listening to my musicals. and
Oh,
and like I love hanging out with my family, and obviously prayer and meditation. Prayer always gets me calm, but and always rejuvenates me and relaxes me. But definitely love musicals, my family, and like prayer and meditation.
so Sound of Music is coming up. It's
I
that's
heard.
yeah. So that's the one you need to jump into and watch.
I know. I'm going through my list of ones that I was like, it's funny. My road trip soundtrack has, my boyfriend laughs at me all the time. My soundtrack has my musicals in shuffled in them.
Yeah.
So like sometimes I'm starting at hip hop and then all of a sudden I'm like, and it's a very eclectic mix of music.
Well, as long as it helps you, that's all
It
that
works for
matters.
me. It
Yeah.
puts me through my ride. That's all that matters.
All right, my next question for you are you're probably doing more online events, and I know that you had initially said that that was something you wanted to navigate towards before COVID. So now that we are all immersed into a virtual world, how's that going for you? I know you're going to do a webinar soon or an event soon about presentation, but like overall, like how is it going event planning virtually?
Great, actually. I'm having so much fun. Like I mentioned earlier, it was on my list originally, and then the pandemic gave me the opportunity to kind of actually explore it the way I wanted to. But with that being said, I love being uncomfortable. Like I fell in love with being uncomfortable. I feel my best work comes from or anybody's best work, honestly, not just me, but anybody's, when you are do something that you didn't think was possible and then you do it. It's such a high. It's such a natural high that you get when you've accomplished it. Like it is it is like the best feeling. Like you've done something that you deemed impossible and it's done, right? Like,
Yeah.
and so to me, this is like, that's why I'm like, I love it. It's because it's pulling me out of places I didn't think I had, opportunities to go into, and like helping people I didn't even think that I would ever be able to help. So it's definitely on like a different, there's clients that come that I've had like just in the recent weeks that I never probably would have never had this not happen. Right.
Wow. Yeah.
Because my face is in a different place, my mindset's in a different place. So that's, get uncomfortable, guys. Get uncomfortable.
If you think about it, most of the time, if you're starting a business anyways, it's an uncomfortable situation, right? You don't know where it's going to go. You don't know, if people are going to come to you. You don't know if you're going to have clientele. You don't know.
There's a lot
And
of moments.
there's so many unknowns, and it's not like, even if your business does like start to, jump up and thrive, like there's always like a constant unknown. You always have to be adaptable and think of creative ways and to innovate and move forward, so
Right.
there's never a moment where it's dull as a business owner. And if you're already like having fun with feeling uncomfortable in an uncomfortable situation, that's like kudos to you, because that's what a lot of business owners have a hard time learning, is like, feeling okay in the unknown.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't like, it's not, Terica, it's not like it was easy either for me. It took me a minute to get to that point where I'm like, I love being uncomfortable, because I think it was probably like 3 or 4 times when I realized that the enjoyment that I got from it, I was like, oh my gosh, I want this again. Like I would want it over and over and over again. Like, so, and I agree completely. When you start a business, you're uncomfortable anyway. Like you generally, there's a lot of these moments. There's a lot of like, like, like why?
Well, like you said it, like, how do I, so basically, when you have the unknowns, I think what happens is a lot of people are stuck in the unknown versus seeing like, okay, look what I did as a result of the unknown, right? So like you threw yourself into the virtual, not really knowing what it would do, but you didn't like stick yourself in, you didn't like settle into like, oh, this is not happening or this isn't happening, like all the negative stuff. You looked at, oh, look, this is what's happening. And then when you focus on the positive, then guess what happens? You see more positive, and then you see success, and then you're like, oh, how can I optimize on this? This was successful. So how do now I have another tool in my toolkit box, so
I can pull it out anytime.
So you could essentially do virtual stuff for people in California or all over the world now, just because you allowed yourself to just accept the unknown and move and like just look beyond maybe some of the downfalls and say, okay, how do I keep moving forward, or how am I successful?
And starting small too will help. Like, and that's, I had to start small. It wasn't like, oh, this is it. No, I started. It was little things. Like I don't like things. I started with things I didn't like doing. That's kind of a thing too. Like I honestly, I was an admin in my past life, in my past career. But there's some administrative things I cannot stand doing. Like I absolutely cannot stand doing. But I realized when I accomplished them, I was always like, whoa, I did it!
Yeah.
So start small, just start small. And I think, and that even goes for when you're teaching your martial arts class, like you start them small so they can accomplish that move, and then you move up to difficult moves and more complex moves like that. Yeah. So
because if you go to the hardest stuff first and then you fail, you've set yourself up to fail, or you've set somebody else up to fail, and then you're like, well, I stink at everything. But if you start yourself small and see the small successes, and then eventually it grows, and that's where then you start to feel more empowered, and that's how you do it for yourself and do it for others. So all right, my next question, that was a good one. Let's see. What are 5 pointers you can give people for online events or presence?
Oh, this is my favorite because I actually teach with a gentleman of mine, a friend of mine, Wade from I Do Event Decals, and he also owns another company called A Sign of Success. But we do a webinar, an interactive webinar, which actually now we're going to start. We're going to have it recorded so you can purchase it at any time and use it whenever.
Cool.
But I love this because this is like it's the easiest fix. This is the most simple fix to do with any virtual event, and it will get you so many results. So the 5 keys that we work off are camera, lighting, sound, backdrops or backgrounds, and then testing. Test all of these together so you make sure you can look great. Like those are the biggest things, and you want to have them locked in. Like you got to make sure your camera's right. You got to make sure your lighting's perfect. You got to make sure your background or backdrop, whatever you decide to use. And then testing those features all together is like so vital, because technology does its own thing, and you want to make sure you have a backup plan to a backup plan to a backup plan.
Yep.
So
No, I mean, you're right. I mean, doing virtual stuff, like I've noticed, like even depending on the computer, like one computer can have like this awesome camera where you don't have to do anything, even to the lighting. Like you can be in the darkest place and it'll just still highlight you. Yeah. And then you're like in this other one, like a phone camera, and it's like, okay, you can't hear me, you can't do this, you can't, it's like, oh my gosh. So no, I agree. Like, and that's not just for virtual, that's like anytime you're doing an event, you always have to make sure you got like a backup to the backup, because you never know when something's gonna like fall through, you know?
Problem solving, I'm telling you. See, that's one of the things you got to make sure. The hardest thing, you got to be problem solver.
Well,
You got to be
that's
quick.
what I always tell people for event planning, or like when I used to plan events, I was like, look, like I can plan the greatest event, but you have to know, like, there's gonna be glitches. Like there's always something. So like you might like all of what I've said, but there will be something. So you have to know like that there's a backup to this and this and this, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And but it's the truth, right? So
Yeah, once something fails, you gotta. And I try not to, because no event is perfect. There's guarantee you can ask any coordinator in the world, any planner in the world, there's something that goes wrong in every single event, whether it's small or humongous.
Yeah,
it is crazy. And so but you have to roll with the punches. And I think that, I mean, it goes for life too. Like you got to be able to take the swings and keep it going and figure out, okay, well, I can't do that right now. Let me figure out this morning. So.
Yeah. Oh, goodness. All right. What was one of your most memorable moments?
Ooh. Oh, man. I don't, I think it's, I have a lot. But really, honestly, surprisingly, it's actually, now that I think about it, Thanksgiving. And I don't know if you mean for events or just in general, but for me, Thanksgiving. And the reason being is because with my family in about 2009, 2010, I can't remember exactly which year, and I think my mind has blocked that year out a little bit. But that was the last Thanksgiving that I had with my uncle. And yes, every Thanksgiving's great. We laugh, we joke. Every Thanksgiving is different and it's fun. But that one was the last Thanksgiving that we had together with my uncle, and we had so much fun. I mean, we laughed so hard that year. For some reason, I just remember laughing like so hard. But what was so special about it and what was so different was the following year, his son came to was at our Thanksgiving as an adult finally. Like he'd been to Thanksgivings as a child, but had never been to as an adult. And so the following year, he finally came to one as an adult. And that to me was like a moment that I will never forget, because that started a whole nother tradition. And he looks just like his dad, like spitting image. Like my uncle threw him up. Like, so to have him there, it was definitely like, man, we never left, and having that is just like the most purest moment that's the most memorable moment. I think it's because it's such a family laughing and a pivotal time where your family finally comes together and things shift and you finally realize how deep the universe goes, because that he would have never come to a Thanksgiving most likely if that had never happened.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like so the universe speaks, and God does his own thing. God works in mysterious ways, and I don't thing.
Very cool. My last question, who inspired you or continues to inspire you?
Um, that's a great question. I actually love this type of question because I can never give a straight answer. But because I believe that inspiration comes from so many different places, and the most unexpected places. Now, of course, my mother is definitely one of my very vital inspirations, and she's like the epitome of strength. And then her sisters are like the epitome. So if like you had paper, rock, and scissors, my mother would be the rock, my aunt would be the scissors, and then my other aunt would be paper. Like it just goes together like, two feathers, right? So, but honestly, like I get inspired by the most unexpected people, right? My 11-year-old goddaughter is such an inspiration to me because she has taught me that no matter how crazy you think the question is, always ask for help and ask a question, because she's constantly asking me, well, why? But then why? But then how do you know that? But then what if you don't do that? So it just taught me that like I just need to ask questions. So I'm always asking questions. And if I don't know something, I'm like, I will find out for you. And then like my high school director just inspired me. She used to always throw me into like roles or stage things that we had to do that was like really tight pressure time strain. And it just taught me that no matter how much the pressure is, and that inspired me, like no matter how hard the pressure is, that you can develop something as long as you have time management within that pressure cooker. Like if you
Mm-hmm.
list your things out within that pressure cooker, you can accomplish it. And it looks like it took you 10 years to design this one thing that took you 20 minutes. Right.
Yeah.
So, and then of course, surprisingly, a hiking instructor, when I was younger, I went on a hike with a group of organization I was with. And that's, you guys think that I'm always motivated? Now, I was not this way the whole my whole life. Like I was always motivated, but I wasn't motivated as I am now, and like so ready to go. But because I did not want to hike up this hill. I was like, absolutely not. Leave me alone. Don't talk to me. But he every 2 seconds he got, let's go, Jasmine. Let's do it. Come on, you got it. And like so like inspired. And so that inspired me to like know like all the hard times that I go through, all of these difficult things that I go through. Like you want to make sure that you stay motivated. And there's nothing that is so hard that you cannot be motivated through, you know. So that's what inspires me.
Well, thank you. Well, Jasmine, this was a lovely conversation with you this morning, and I appreciate you coming on to Friday for Females. If anyone else wants to jump on, just send me a message. But it was great to hear your story and how you got inspired and what you do. Um, and we look forward to seeing great things from you.
Oh, thank you.
You're
Don't forget,
welcome.
dreams can be a reality, guys. Just face it
Yep.
and see them.
Awesome. Take care, everyone. Have a great Friday.
Thanks, Erica.
Bye.
Bye.